Привет, I'm Chuck Olinik, a Ukrainian-American baptized with the name Yaroslav, and that's the name I use in the Society for Creative Anachronism, where I'm known as Yaroslav the Persistent, or Yari. I've been putting together videos about Slavic folklore and mythology and a bunch of, Slavic customs and history, and putting these videos up on my YouTube channel in order to share the knowledge. And maybe this would inspire people to look into developing an Eastern European persona. When you mention Slavic mythology and folklore, I think Baba Yaga is the first character that's going to spring to mind. And since it's spooky October, here we go. And there's a whole bunch of different Baba Yaga stories. There's a lot of different versions depending upon which men and women and boys and girls she's encountering. There's some traits that remain fairly consistent. She lives in a hut which stands on chicken legs, its entrance facing a slumbering forest. Some accounts have it that the hut is made of the bones of her victims and that it must be commanded to turn around on its slender supports so that one may enter. One story has a character named Ivan, because there's always a character named Ivan, utter the magical formula, Izbushka, stand with back to the forest and front towards us. And the hut faces towards them, its doors and windows open of their own accord. Some accounts say that her house could run after its victims. The hut stands in a courtyard enclosed by a fence made of dead men's bones. Well, it would suck if they were still alive. And topped by human skulls with eyes staring from the sockets or light coming from the eye sockets. Good fences make good neighbors, right? So, within the hut, or izba as the Russians would call it, that's why Ivan calls the hut Izbushka, dwells Baba Yaga. In some tales, she lives there with her daughter Marinushka, Marina. All right, but most often she lives alone on the stove, the peach, and she's reclining on the 9th brick, very specifically. She's a keeper of heavenly and earthly secrets, inspires fear because she personifies at the same time destructive power and the power of creation and life. And she's derived for some from the hag, the third member of the three-part goddess, Virgin Mother Hag. Baba Yaga is said to guard the gate to the other world. She knows everything that was before. As the birth and death giver, she resembles the Matryoshka doll. She empowers males. On November 24th, or the full moon in November, the supreme old crone goddess is honored with a feast day. She is sometimes given sisters, equally demonic, and in some myths she's described as a mistress of the beasts and the birds, the hostess of the world of the dead. What does she look like? She looks like an old woman, more like a tall, gaunt hag, with disheveled hair, but there's something odd about her. She's definitely scary. Her face is covered in warts, her crooked nose reaches all the way down to her hairy chin, or all the way to the roof of her hut. She has hands like hooks, a hump on her back, because of course she does. Her legs are bony, although in some stories one leg might be fat. So Bony Legs, one of her nicknames, is so skinny, she appears as a skeleton with sharp teeth, bearded, with a mouth said to produce the stench of the gates of hell. She's also pretty much into sharpening her teeth. Besides the house on the chicken legs, this is one of those other features that everybody that hears about Baba Yaga knows. And by the way, Baba Yaga, the Slavic character, not John Wick. When Baba Yaga goes abroad, she rides in a mortar, which she urges on with a pestle, while she sweeps away the traces of where she's been with a broom. Baba Yaga is not good, but is not entirely evil. She does eat people. In one story, she offers a human arm by the way of a meal to a girl who visits her. But she also is represented in one of the stories as petrifying her victims. Still, you can't exactly call her a villain. Yeah, she threatens to eat Ivan the Prince, or Mashenka, or Vasilisa the Beautiful. But really, her purpose in a lot of stories is to be a magical helper to the hero, even if her help is not always what's expected. In Russian fairy tales, the hero never comes to the hut on chicken feet before encountering and speaking to forest beasts like a hedgehog or a rabbit or a bear or a pike, etc. And after he encounters Baba Yaga, he always has to face some sort of a test by encountering the real villains of the stories. We've already met some of them, some of these villains. Koshchei the Deathless is one, who, by the way, in some tales, Baba Yaga is his mother, could be his aunt, could be they are a couple. It could be Zmei Horinich, the dragon, or Chudo Yudo, another dragon who might also be one of her sons, which makes the dragon and Koshchei brothers. It could be Liko, one-eyed Liko, evil fate, whom we've met before. Or it could be a Kikamora, probably the swamp kind, not the kind that is a house spirit. Or the Leshy, a creature of the forest. These and other demonic creatures don't belong to the real world. They represent the world of the dead in the fairy tales. Baba Yaga is in both worlds. She belongs in part to the magic world. In Baba Yaga's hut, the hero goes through all of the necessary rites to begin his journey into this supernatural world. He washes in the bathhouse, which symbolizes the washing of a dead body before burial. He eats and drinks in excess, which is a hint at the traditional feast, the Pominki, that's held after a funeral. A big thing is he always sleeps in this strange hut on chicken legs because night is the witching hour, the time of passage from one state to another, and sleep is kind of a small death. So the hero's got to acquire this superhuman strength, and so the hero's got to pass into this unreal world because that's where he's going to get tested. After all, his strength is not enough to overcome what he's facing. Interestingly enough, it's only the male hero who has to overcome these really heavy tests from Baba Yaga in her house. He's got to prepare himself, remember, for that unreal world. Heroines don't need to. All they have to do is perform some, one description said, menial feminine chores, and they would receive the power and wisdom from their wild mother. I don't entirely agree with that, because they obviously have to face some kind of threat too. I'm going to throw one more curve at you before I take off. In some of the myths and some of the stories, Baba Yaga is even a goddess of war. Some are going to believe that she may have actually been a part of the Russian or the Kievan Rus pantheon, having as much power as Perun, basically Slavic Thor. Right? She may have had her own places of worship. Maybe she's being confused with Makosh, Moist Mother Earth. Sometimes she's a thief of life, but sometimes a giver of life, a helper of heroes. Okay, that's an introduction to who Baba Yaga is, because, as I was saying, there's a whole bunch of stories about her, and I want to tell them. So, until the next time, do pobачення.